Hey, good evening, everybody. Thank you for joining us for this episode of According to Sacha Podcast. You know, we're with you every Thursday night, 8 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. And we're here right on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, and we are on iHeart, Spotify, and the list goes on, even with all of our streaming platforms that we're on. And you can see that right down at the bottom. And tonight I have a special guest, is Dr. Brianna Gaynor, and she's a motivational speaker. She is a powerhouse in mental health and wanting to really, hone in on this time of the season. We all go through a lot of things with the holidays, and we're going to kind of touch in on some of those things tonight. But first and foremost, I got to do, right? We have to like, follow, and share. Like, follow, and share all of our platforms that I listed already. And if you're watching or if you're listening, make sure you do that, because everything that you do for this platform here helps every guest that's on our platform. We want to be able to broaden their target audience and have new people to see who they are. And we can't do that without you. So thank you so much. We have one more show this year, you guys. That's going to be on next Thursday. So definitely tune in next Thursday for our last show for the year. And then we'll be back in February for season 4. And not only is it season 4, but it's going to be the 1-year anniversary of According to Sacha Podcast. Isn't that crazy, you guys? I'm going to have DJs and everything on that first episode that I'm going to do. But definitely make sure you tune in. Make sure you're engaged tonight. Ask your questions. We love engagement, you guys, and show Dr. Brianna our welcome her here. And I really don't have too many more things to talk about, but I do have, let's see, 2 sponsors. So I have one right here is Own It. It's the anthology, but they also have a conference, you guys, a conference and retreat. It's going to be in the DR, in the Dominican Republic. I don't know what's going on in the DR, but everybody's going down there for their conferences. So definitely check it out. I have the website on the According to Sacha page, and if you follow me on Facebook, it's on my page as well, and you'll see more information about that. So I definitely want you to make sure that you check that out, okay? And then we'll have a word from our sponsor, and then we will be back with Dr. Brianna Gaynor.
Hello, my name is Erica Jefferson, and I am the owner of Snatching Bodies Beauty Bar, located here in Hampton, Virginia, where we offer facials, vajacials, sugar waxing, hard wax, and intimate bleaching, and much more. We also offer all natural and organic body care products, as well as always accepting new clients. Come check us out. The holidays are approaching, and we hope to see you soon.
Entrepreneurship, small business, is something that everybody would love to do, making their own money. And this is what we will be talking about on According to Sacha. Hey, Dr. Brianna Gaynor.
Hi.
How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing fine. Thank you so much for being here tonight and just gracing us with your presence. We really appreciate it.
Thank you for having me.
You're welcome. So, I always start off this conversation with, I like to call it my power question. Okay. A lot of times I stomp people with it. Even if I prepare them for it, they still get kind of stuck. Let me see how you're going to do tonight.
Good. Okay.
So tell the audience, who is Dr. Brianna Gaynor?
I am a clinical psychologist. I am a motivational speaker. And I'm a person that wants to make a difference and help people in the world. I mean, if I had to kind of boil it down to that, that's what I'm really passionate about, helping people just to be able to see their true selves and to be able to accept and manage any kind of mental health difficulties they have. So I'm someone who cares about people deeply and does her best to try to help them.
That's wonderful. That's awesome. We need a lot of people like that in the world.
Yeah.
I mean, there are a lot, but having more people who just really want to impact and help create change and help other people, just being heart-centered in what they do is so phenomenal. So how did you get into, like, what was it that made you want to go and study psychology?
Very simple, silly story. I was in middle school and I remember everybody always asking me for advice. And I don't even remember how I first heard about a psychologist, but in my mind, that's what it was associated with. So I'm just going to do that. Excuse me. And then I majored in college. I had my first abnormal psychology class. And if anyone's ever taken abnormal psychology, you either love it or hate it. And I was like, I'm going to do this forever. And I just kind of fell in love with it. So it's kind of always new, I guess. Yeah.
Yeah. So what
Mhm.
is it about
Mhm.
abnormal psychology class that's
So abnormal psychology class is when you learn about all the diagnoses and like just all the different disorders. So I was diagnosing myself and my family and my friends like, oh, okay. I thought I knew everything once I took that class.
my niece is she's a psychology major. She actually
Mhm.
went and got her master's.
Okay.
Oh, my daughter's a psychology major too, but she's going into nursing. She got that part and she's in nursing now. But for my niece to go as far as she has gone, and that, I mean, she loves it
Mhm.
and making a career out of it. And just like, what is it about that you really, really like? And she just likes to diagnose people. I think that
But
that's
I
the
think too,
thing.
I remember that first class too, also just helping me understand more about why people do the things they do,
Mhm.
understanding a lot more about kind of the things that drive you when you're
Yeah.
younger and just the understanding of the human mind. I just find it very fascinating.
Yeah, that is
Mhm,
that is fascinating.
mhm,
I never thought about I took one psychology class
mhm.
and I actually did pretty good in it. But I never thought about like doing anything with
More,
it.
yeah.
But I do it all the time.
Mhm,
But just not in that vein. So you just never know. But yeah, so that's awesome. So now with the degree
mhm.
and what you're doing now with your business and how you help business owners, corporate, personalize everything, how were you able to merge that together? What was it that brought it together for you, other than helping people?
Um, it's interesting because I've never really thought of myself as someone who wanted to be upfront or who wanted to be a speaker, and I remember going to a conference with a friend and being like, "Oh, okay. Maybe this is something I want to do," and just starting to think about the things I'm passionate about, like demystifying mental health. So I found myself talking to people about that all the time. And so
Mhm.
I just really started getting more interested in it, talking to people, really getting some coaching so that I could get over some of the nervousness of it
Yeah.
and really thinking about what I was passionate about. And it just seemed like the perfect mix to be able to talk to people about what I do every day, but to
Mhm.
be able to reach a larger audience. And the truth is, when someone has the same experience as you have. So someone is a business owner or someone is African American or someone has been through therapy. You tend to relate more to people who understand what you've gone through because they've gone through it than
Mhm.
people who just talk about something and they have no frame of reference.
Oh wow. Yeah, that's
Mhm.
good. That's really good. So, with everything being mental health driven,
Mhm.
wellness driven, in so many different capacities. And I'll kind of break it down a little bit. First, let's talk about um, the importance of mental health around the holidays, since
Mhm.
we're in this holiday season.
Yeah. I think this is probably one of the times where it's most important. So this is the time where we're around people that we're probably not around for the majority of the year. This is the time of year where we're spending a lot of money. There's a lot of pressure maybe to feel the need to buy gifts or to have certain obligations to go to certain family homes and certain traditions. And that can be stressful. So, how do you deal with those things when you're going through your own life stuff and maybe there are some boundaries you need to develop with family and it's really hard to develop boundaries?
Mhm.
Or just the holiday season is hard for a lot of people because of loss and grief. What do we do with that? I think we don't talk about that enough. I know for me, I think so my mom died 7 years ago, and this is the first time I think because it was such a close death where I had to figure out how to do that.
Mhm.
Prior to that, my frame of reference is you go to the funeral, you cry at the funeral, and then you're done. But a lot of people are having a hard time when it comes to those family celebrations and family members aren't there. So really
Yeah.
checking in with yourself and making sure you're doing things that you feel good about, you're being around people who you feel are supportive,
Mhm.
you need time away, you're giving yourself that out to do that. Just being okay to do whatever you need and not feel obligated, I think would be one of the biggest things I think is important around this time.
Yeah. Yeah, and then also, a lot of people lose loved ones around the holidays. So I
Yeah.
think that makes it even harder,
Hmm.
on them because it's associated around a holiday. I know
Absolutely.
years, it's been a long time. I think almost over about 26 about 26 years. And my grandmother, she passed away maybe like 2 days before Thanksgiving.
Hmm.
And so, that was kind of hard the first few years. And it's like, okay, we don't have my grandmother around.
Yeah.
So, I just can imagine how hard it is for other people. Now, with the whole corporate world,
Hmm.
um, 'cause, we like I said, we're gonna break this down in segments because
Okay.
I feel like mental health is something that's a broad scope of things.
Hmm.
It's like a generalized term in a lot of ways. And then there's ways that you can actually niche it down. Like we're all the same people in every space, but some things are talked about a little bit more than others when it comes down to mental health. So
Hmm.
let's look at it from a corporate view. Those who are employees, have employers, and how, you can really manage the whole mental piece, the mental health part of things when it comes down to the corporate world.
I mean, so I think it's twofold. So I think for employees, um, in an ideal world, you could talk to whoever is your employer if you're having a hard time, or if there's, some time that you need off, or there's an accommodation that will be helpful because maybe you do have a loss or you do have a funeral. That's not always
Mhm.
possible. So I think it's just really more important than ever to make sure that you are taking care of yourself outside of work, and that you stay focused on the task at hand. So for instance, let's say this is a really hard time for you. What that may mean is when I am struggling, or when I'm having difficulty, or I'm having sadness, I'm probably not going to do my job to the best of my ability. So how do I help myself in that, so that that's not one more thing that adds stress? So maybe I need to make sure that I'm writing things down. I need to make sure I'm double checking. I need to check in just so that I am doing what I need to do, not just for the job, but for myself. Because when you're having a hard time and then you're struggling at work, all those things can kind of compound. But then also making sure when I'm away from work, I'm having those boundaries where I'm not looking at my emails after work. I'm not doing things associated with it. I'm making sure that I'm going home and I'm really resting and I'm really doing the things that I need to do. I'm meeting with a friend for dinner or whatever that looks like.
Mhm.
So that I'm making sure I'm taking care of myself. If you have a boss who is supportive, who you can talk to, just letting them know I'm doing my best, but giving them a heads up. I think for me as an employer, I appreciate more information. I appreciate knowing, you know what, this is hard for me. You know what, I'm sick right now. I need to let you
Mhm.
know that I am trying. Having that information versus not. I think although people want to make sure they're taking care of it, on the boss's side, if you don't see anything happening, you don't know what's going on. But
Right.
just putting those boundaries in place, I think for employers, it's harder because your goal, or you're supposed to be taking care of everyone else. And I don't think
Mhm.
that people are really thinking about kind of what the boss is going through.
Right.
The employers, the entrepreneurs, they're having hard times too. And so making sure that they have that time away and are creating those boundaries and taking that time, especially when it's hard, I think is even more important because it impacts productivity. It impacts everything. If you're not in a good space, if you're struggling, then you're not going to be able to do anything efficiently.
Yeah, that's true. I'm gonna take a moment right here and say, look, everybody who's watching, if you have any questions, you want to just be engaged, come on, this is the time to ask now.
Mhm.
Because one thing I was going to say, even with the whole corporate space,
Yeah.
a lot of companies, people can look into their benefits. They have free services,
Mhm.
like therapy services that you could go and it doesn't cost you any extra. It's not part of it's a part of your benefit package, but nothing that you have to pay for.
Yeah.
So if people do need that type of assistance, is there at your company. Make sure you look into it and make sure they have it. But most companies do. And I think that's really good because, like you said, so many people, they go through so many different things. And I'll use this as an example. Like I'm here in Virginia. And
Mhm.
then so recently we had an active shooter situation. It was at a Walmart. And it was a manager that shot some of the employees.
Yeah.
And people were talking about, so this is where that mental health thing came in at, or in a
Mhm.
workplace setting, not saying that everything goes to that extreme, but you don't know when somebody is really dealing with so much that they, go to the edge or whatever that looks like for them. And but people actually complained about that because, they were saying that there were some problems there. And so I would say, well, let me ask this. So do you feel like in a corporate setting, when you do have your employers and your employees, if someone is coming to you, like somebody else is seeing someone in a way that feels like there's a little something going on there,
Mhm.
should it be the responsibility of that supervisor to kind of inquire, not to say inquire directly, but just to show care in a formal, in that formal way to, get somebody to kind of express if they need help?
Absolutely. But I think that it will probably even make it easier if that's just something we did on a regular basis. If we just checked in, hey, how's it going? How are you doing? Because the truth is, as much as we want to kind of separate personal and professional,
Mhm.
it all meshes together. When you're struggling with things in your personal life, it impacts your work. And so
Mhm.
if we made more of a choice just to check in, and the truth is, that doesn't mean that you can eliminate everything from happening. But if there is more of an opportunity just to check in and people know that someone cares,
Mhm.
that could be something that can make all the difference. But I absolutely think that it is a good idea and it is on. If someone brings that to you to
Yeah.
just definitely check in because that can make a huge difference. That could
Yeah,
be the day that they need someone to ask.
that's so true. And
Yeah.
a lot of times people can walk through life, just be real about it. A lot of people walk through life and they're so concerned about their own lives that they don't
Yeah.
see anyone else and what they
Mhm.
have going on. And so it is, whether it's in your family, whether it's your coworkers, or, sometimes even the person that you walk past in the store,
Mhm.
just, you never know. If you just smile and say hello, that could diffuse somebody
Mhm.
because in their mind, somebody's cared enough to say hi or
Mhm.
how are you doing or something like
Mhm.
that. So those are little things we
But
need
what
to.
about also, and I said that I was going to do this in the beginning of the year, and I don't know if I continued it, but
Mhm.
when someone actually asks you how you're doing, you tell them. Now, depending on the person, I probably won't go into a whole lot of detail.
Right.
However, okay, I'm okay. We say that so
Yeah.
easily, but what if we're not? I remember
Mhm.
a few years ago being in the hallway at work. So I'm in an office complex, so there are other businesses. So I
Mhm.
was a lady, I don't think I've ever talked to her before, and I don't even remember how the conversation started. She must have asked me how I was doing, and I had
Yeah.
just lost my mom, and I'm just talking. And I would never have went into this much detail, but I was in a place where I don't know, I was looking for something. What do I do? And
Mhm.
she told me about this support group for people who had lost
Mhm.
people, and it ended up being one of the best things I could have ever done. But if I had never opened my mouth to talk to this lady, which I thought was a random occurrence,
Right.
it really helped me on my journey to healing, and I wouldn't have received that if I hadn't just said something. So, I mean,
Yeah.
you have to have discernment, but I think there are some times when I've realized when I've just opened my mouth and said something, I'll get a resource or, oh, an idea. You just never
Yeah.
know.
Yeah. And that's the key word, having discernment, but
Yeah.
also, just being a person who is just polite, just being
Yeah.
empathetic. A lot of people
Yeah.
might be like, what's discernment? But when you're intuitive and, about people that you're around, but just
Mhm.
being pleasant in itself goes a long way. And I never forget, it's been years ago. I was sitting outside of a 7-Eleven, and I think I had just came out. I was going to start the car, and this man came up. He's on his phone. He's walking to the 7-Eleven. He's loud. He's cussing. He's like, you know, I think he was on the phone with, I don't know. I think it had something to do with a bill or something like that.
Mhm.
He was so loud, and it hit me because it was just like, you never know what people are going through when you
Mhm.
pass them, but it's all about being attentive. I mean, it's like our, due diligence in this human race and, being human beings and showing the kindness that we can do. So let me go ahead and go into the part that I really like
Okay.
for us entrepreneurs.
Yes.
So I know that you mentioned before, even like with employers and, entrepreneurs, we all go through the same space. I still kind of look at entrepreneurs a little bit different from the employers in the corporate world,
Okay.
because entrepreneurs, they are that solopreneur. They are, the one that wears so many different hats,
Yeah.
trying to build a business as well as managing a family, sometimes working a 9 to 5 on top of that.
Yeah.
So how important is like that mental health and wellness, but also self-care for entrepreneur?
It's essential. I It's been interesting as I have gone through my journey of trying to have boundaries and take care of myself, but also having a business. And I have friends who, I have my laptop everywhere because 9 to 5 and I'm still working, and it's like, no, you need to close your computer. But when the business rests and relies on you, when people are depending on you, when this is your thing, it's really hard to step away and have that divide. It's really difficult.
Mhm.
But being able to turn your brain off and have some boundaries with being an entrepreneur is important, or you're going to burn out. It's really easy to burn out. I have had one too many nights where at 1 a.m. I'm thinking about, what about this client? What about that? Did they do that? What about like all the things that I did not think about and I can't sleep. And so
Right.
finding that balance so I can be fresh, so I can do the things I need to do, have ideas, be pleasant, and
Mhm.
have the energy and desire. It's really important. And
Mhm.
so for me, one of the things that's really important that I would recommend any entrepreneur do is try to have at least one day where it has nothing to do with work. Sundays, and I have to remind myself because an email will come and out. No, no, I'm not looking at an email. I'm not, because, and that one day does wonders for me, just
Mhm.
one day. But the
Yeah.
fact that peace of mind, Dr. Gaynor speaks, there it is nothing about work that I am doing. I am just doing what I want to do makes such a huge difference.
Yeah, yeah. It lightens the load. It really
Absolutely.
does. And that's one of the things, definitely with you being a clinical psychologist, I always share these type of things with my audience as well, because being an entrepreneur who has gone through, because some things life happens.
Yeah.
And, not only
All
of
the
us just
time.
working and trying to wear multiple hats, but we have life that really
Yeah.
happens, and
Mhm.
that could throw a wrench in our game.
Mhm.
And depending on where you are and what's riding on what you're doing, that wrench can take you out a little bit. you know
Absolutely.
so I
Absolutely.
went through that with the pandemic.
Mhm.
Wasn't too kind to my business. My business was solely in event production, and the event world was shut down for like almost 2 years. So that for me was like that wrench that just, I'm going here, and I see, and I was like, boom, get back, Sasha.
Mhm.
You're not going anywhere. And so I had to deal with the emotions, the draining, the mental draining, and all of those things. And now, being back in business, being flourishing and everything else, I made sure to take some of those things that I learned. And it was just like being like just sitting still for so long. It felt good in a sense. It felt good not to have the pressure, because I was one of the ones that was up 2, 3 o'clock in the morning, working on things or trying to take care of this, and go to sleep, wake up at 6, and still
Mhm.
going, and doing the overload, not even ignoring even the fact if I could have been burnt out, but still never
Mhm.
acknowledged it, but kept going. So I had that superwoman
Yeah.
thing going on. And from there, it felt so freeing that I didn't have all of that. So I took into everything that you just said now, like having those boundaries. I had to set boundaries. I had to set boundaries with people. I had to set boundaries for myself. And it was, and people is the biggest thing, even
Yeah,
with,
absolutely.
you have to set those boundaries. And, just want to echo that. And, from that entrepreneur's perspective, and to everybody
Mhm.
that's out there, definitely do that, because it makes a world of difference. I love to say, like you said, go out to dinner with a friend or something.
Or go out to dinner by yourself. There are
Look,
times when I have talked to people all week. I don't want to talk
yeah,
to nobody. I don't
nobody.
want to see. I don't want to have to make conversation. I just want
Hmm.
to go to a nice dinner and
Yep.
enjoy. But I mean, I think whatever that thing is. We do so much, you give so much,
Mhm.
and you can't give from what you don't have. So making sure
Mm,
you're filled up, making sure you are surrounding yourself with people who fill you up,
yeah.
people who will listen to you, people who will give you advice, especially if you're the one always doing that. Who are the people that you can vent to, who are going to listen
Mhm.
to you, who support you, or just having time by yourself? What is it that makes you feel good? And making sure
Yeah.
you're doing that on a consistent basis, I think, is essential.
Mhm.
Now that we're outside again, going on vacation, getting away, all
Yes.
of that. Like, how do
Yeah.
you create daily, weekly, and monthly some little thing for yourself that fills
Mhm.
you up so you can keep going and enjoy this journey? Because if you don't, it's harder to see the blessings, and it's harder to be grateful. It just can create a lot of just drudgery. You don't even want to
Mhm.
do it anymore. And there's a reason why you started this in the first place.
Right. So what are
Mhm.
your top 5 self-care practices?
Ooh, the Sunday thing, definitely.
Uh-huh.
Um, you know what? I've started right before bed, just stretching and
Mhm.
praying and turning off the lights, just
Yeah.
getting quiet with myself. That's actually really been helpful. I remember a friend suggested stretching, and I was like, huh? Why am I doing that? Exercise. I don't like to admit that I like exercise, but I think I do because I keep doing it. So that
Yeah.
is really helpful. I notice when I don't do it, what a difference it makes.
Mhm.
Um, laughing. Laughing
Mhm.
is huge. Just being able to laugh and enjoy, and being able to vent and have people where I can just talk and talk and talk and talk and tell you all the things and all the things and all the things, because
Right.
I hear it all the time. So it's really nice to be able to have that
Mhm.
balance for me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mhm.
That's good. And that's keyword. Have people who are willing to listen. Because you have some people that will listen, be like, "Hey, I'm here for you," but they ready to tune you out after you went like the whole hour.
Or make it about themselves. I want to talk
Right.
about you. Can I go?
Be like, "Look, can I designate 2 hours of your time? I need it right now." It's
Yes,
like,
exactly.
yeah, definitely. And so, there was another question I was going to ask you. So those self-care practices is very, very essential. So,
Mm,
everybody out there, I want to challenge you all, to
mhm,
think about your top 5. What would be your top 5 self-care practices? Even if you haven't even implemented, like, what are the things you think would work for you?
mhm.
And put them into practice. And, we're at the end of the year. A lot of times, we're always going through this whole new year, new you thing. Soon as January 1st enters,
Yeah,
midnight, right
yeah.
there. Oh, we're on New Year, new you. And so think about what you can take into the new year, but not just take into it, but just continue on. Just
Mhm.
make sure that's your practice to where it's just like a non-negotiable for yourself. So
Like, what are your top 5?
my top 5. Ooh, I like it.
Yes. Uh-huh.
Yes. So my first one is I work out. I prioritize it. I make
Mm,
sure I go and spend at least an hour, on a good day, hour and a half. I like to zone out. I just
yeah.
zone out. And if in the summertime or in the warm days, I love sitting by the beach.
Mm.
I love going to the beach and just stilling myself and just being quiet. Um, a good meal. I feel like sometimes when you just had that right meal, you just be like, it's like
Yes.
all the weight of the day is gone.
Mhm.
Um, I'm a foodie. I ain't gonna lie, I'm a foodie.
Me too.
Chocolate cookies, yes. When I have those stressful days, oh, I'm right at McDonald's. I'm like, I'm not a big wine drinker. Some people, I gotta get a glass of wine when they go home,
Mhm.
right? Nah, a pack of 3 cookies, please. How much? Okay, I got you. Like that's me, and just like just quiet down, spending time with family.
Mhm.
Um, those are the personal things, but definitely in my business, what I've done is I make sure I prioritize things. I have a cutoff, like you said, setting those boundaries. So I do,
Yeah.
try to set boundaries for myself and like cut the time. Like if 10 o'clock is it, cut it off. 10 o'clock, no
Yeah.
matter what's done.
Because
And
you could keep going. It could go on forever.
it could be
Yeah.
1 o'clock in the morning before you,
Yeah.
realize it.
Yeah.
So those are the things that I put into practice, and it's very helpful. It's very
Mhm.
helpful. I can't wait. Like after next week, I'm shutting down for 2 weeks, 2 whole weeks,
Oh
nothing else,
man.
but I just be able to just relax and
Yeah.
regroup and going to the new year. So that is so important for me. Yes,
Absolutely.
yes, yes. So if there was something that you could give to people that you haven't already, because we're going to go ahead and put up your information real
Okay.
quick. And what would you give to anyone that's watching that would be that main nugget that they need to take into the new year?
Be gentle with yourself. We tend to be our hardest critics. We're so tough on ourselves, what we shoulda, coulda, woulda did, how we could have done it better. But be gentle with yourself. You're human, you make mistakes. Make sure you take care of yourself and treat
Mhm.
yourself the way you treat your best friend, the way you treat the people you love, the way you treat the people you take care of. Give yourself that same kind of treatment because you deserve it. And it will really help you to keep going. That was what I would say. Be gentle with yourself.
Oh, that's awesome. That is so
Yeah.
wonderful. I love that. Be gentle with yourself. So everybody, make sure you be gentle with yourself.
Yes, please.
It's only you, it's really you and you.
Mhm.
You have everybody else is around you. You have people involved in your life. But end of the day, at night, when you're laying there, going to go to sleep, it's just you and your thoughts. So make sure
Mhm.
you do be gentle with yourself, give yourself grace. And on that note, I want you to make sure that you reach out to Dr. Brianna Gaynor. And, she has a list of services that's on her website. She's also a motivational speaker. So if anybody wants to book her for any events, you can do that. Go ahead and reach out to her. And oh, somebody left a comment. Hold on, make sure I see that.
Okay.
Oh, Sabrina. Hey, Sabrina. She said, can each of you give an example of how to set? Oh, there you go. She has a good question.
Uh-huh. Give an
Oh,
example of how to set a boundary.
ooh. You want to go first?
So I guess in terms of the boundary with work, for instance,
Mhm.
I will tell myself, okay, this is what I'm doing. I'm not working on Sunday. And also having an accountability partner, someone who's checking in, because it can be really easy when you're the only one who created the boundary to
Mhm.
kind of give yourself a little wiggle room, maybe not stick to it, but make sure you have someone who keeps you accountable just to make sure, because that means it's even more important. So someone who you're going to tell the truth to so you can keep yourself honest.
That's good. That's a good one. I would say no. Believe it or not, saying no is setting a boundary.
Mhm.
And, just don't be afraid to say no. A lot of times people can think that that's a bad thing, but you can say no because if you're not in a position to give out of yourself, if you're half full, if your capacity is maxed out,
Mhm.
and you still try to take it on, you can't go and be the best self that you can be.
Mhm.
So when you say no and just be okay with it, they're gonna be okay. They'll deal with it. Just say no and just learn how to do it with grace. You don't have to be mean about it. Do it with grace, but really say no in the fact that it helps you to take care of yourself first. So in that way you can give into others. So that's one thing I would say. I would set a boundary. I learned how to say I've learned how to set that boundary.
Mhm.
Let's see who else is in here. Oh, I check in. Oh, it's Ari's. So this show. So yeah, he checks on me because he's telling on me now. I shouldn't even put that up there. He's my good accountability partner. So yeah, so he makes sure that I'm doing what I'm doing. Yeah, even when it's time to shut it down for the night. Yeah, that's him. Make sure I'm done. Yeah. So I think and I want to say not telling on me no more. So yeah, I just told the world like, yes, I don't know how to shut down sometimes. I do strive to do so, but that's a boundary I try to stay on top of. And but yeah, definitely you guys reach out to Dr. Brianna Gaynor and whatever it is, just reach out to her, follow her. She's on Facebook, she's on Instagram, I believe. And
Yes, Dr. Gaynor speaks.
Dr. Gaynor speaks. All
Yes.
right. And then I really enjoy having you on the show
Thank
tonight.
you so much. This was great. I really
You're so
appreciate it.
welcome. You're so welcome. Thank you, Sabrina, for hooking us up and watching. Thank you, everybody, for watching tonight. I hope that you really did get a lot of great nuggets to help you deal with the holiday season, to
Mhm.
also be prepared to go into a new year and a new season for your life, and to make sure that you do prioritize your own mental wellness and your own self-care. So that way you can be the highest version of yourself, to be full and not to be full less or less of yourself, in order for you to give to your clients, give to your customers, give to your employees, and whatever, so forth, in your family. So on that note, everybody, I want to say thank you. And remember to command your day and be great in everything you do. See you next week.
Bye.